Management.
Good morning and welcome to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. Now for today's show, here's attorney Ethel Mitchell.
Throughout the world. I've learned recently that we've got listeners in Japan and in Nigeria and all over the place. So I welcome everyone, whether you're listening on Radio 1, 1450 AM, WOLDCnews.com, LawTalkWithEthelMitchell.com, or over the free TuneIn app. We have a great program for you today. Miss Kelly just finished talking about love and matchmaking and so on like that, and we're going to talk today about divorce. We are speaking to attorney Michelle Thomas, who is an expert and a divorce strategist, and I'm very pleased to have her on. She was actually my first guest when we started the program, and she talked about prenuptial agreements, which is another area of the law that she also specializes in. But today we're going to concentrate on divorce, when love does not work out. This program is brought to you by my law office, Wills and Trust, LLC. I prepare wills, trusts, power of attorneys, medical directives. So if anyone you know needs a will, a trust, or assistance administering an estate, give me a call at 202-772-1988. That's 202-772-1988. You can go to my website, www.willsandtrust.net, and be sure to put an S on the trust and the wills.net. And there's a lot of information there about the various documents that are important to protecting yourself and your loved ones. The program is also brought to you by my sponsor, Equity Resources. If you want to sell your home, Equity Resources will buy it quickly and for cash and at fair prices. So give them a call anywhere in the metropolitan area, D.C., Maryland, or Northern Virginia. Call Equity Resources at 202-621-6632. So let's get started with the program. As you always hear me say, law is powerful. It can help you or it can hurt you. It impacts everything you do. What you don't know can really hurt you, but what you do know can empower you. So each week, Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell aims to empower you by bringing you professionals who know the law to enlighten you. All of our programs are archived on www.lawtalkwithethelmitchell.com. So if you missed a program, go there. And they are posted by my webmaster, Earl Hooks, within 72 hours of their airing. We want you to be part of the conversation, so call us with your questions or comments at 1-800-450-7876. That's 1-800-450-7876. I must remind you that what you hear on this program is for information purposes only. No attorney-client relationship is established by anything said on the program. Each person's circumstances really are quite different, so you must seek individual counsel for any situation for which you need legal advice. I am so pleased to welcome attorney Michelle C. Thomas back to the show. She was my very first Law Talk guest in February when we launched. She is a noted divorce strategist and an expert in representing clients in love and out of love. Attorney Thomas is going to tell us how to protect your assets when the marriage does not work out. What are the kinds of things you need to know, and what are the kinds of things you need to do? As I mentioned during the February show with Michelle, according to the Census Bureau, there are 313.9 million Americans. 44 million of that number identify themselves as black. That came from blackdemographics.com. According to those statistics, black men overwhelmingly marry black women. So, ladies, the brothers are still choosing us to marry. People are getting married every day. According to the January 14th article in Reuters, In 2011, 2.1 million people got married just in that year alone. So that's an average of 5,800 people a day getting married. Unfortunately, people also get divorced every day. Attorney Thomas is going to tell you how to be properly prepared. Attorney Thomas, let me tell you about her. She is the founder of MC Thomas and Associates PC, a premier divorce and family law firm serving Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. Ms. Thomas focuses on complex divorce litigation, high net worth divorce, and contested custody cases for traditional and non-traditional families. She has extensive skill protecting assets through prenuptial and postnuptial agreements, post-separation planning, and aggressive litigation if necessary. Attorney Thomas earned her bachelor's degree from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and received her Juris Doctorate degree from the George Washington University Law School. She is a member of the Bar Association in the District of Columbia, Virginia, Maryland, the U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Virginia, U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit, and the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. She serves as president of the Greater Washington Area Chapter of the Women's Lawyer Divisions of the National Bar Association. She's a member of the American Bar Association, Family Law Section, and the D.C. Bar Family Law and Labor and Employment sections. Attorney Thomas's articles have been published in the Washington Examiner, Washington Times, and Essence Magazine. She has been a guest on Fox News Television, The Audrey Chapman Show, and, as I've said before, on Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. In addition to maintaining her law practice, she serves as counsel at Safer Law. She remains dedicated to community affairs. She's an active member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority and Reed Temple AME Church. She volunteers at So Others May Eat in Washington, D.C. Ms. Thomas is a native of New York and resides in Montgomery County. Thank you, Michelle, for sharing your expertise with our listeners. So let's jump right in. Welcome, Michelle Thomas.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here again.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Divorce is a huge step. Anyone who's gone through a divorce knows that it can really be difficult. Would you share with my audience some important tips that you recommend? For example, you call yourself a divorce strategist. What does that mean?
What that means, Ethel, is that planning is a very necessary step to the entire process and navigating through divorce, which, as we all know, is a very difficult and sometimes devastating process for most people. So a strategy, having a strong strategy from the very beginning, is critical to your success in getting through the process properly. Okay. I say that it's necessary to be proactive in planning for the future and preparing for your future post-marriage and post-divorce.
Uh-huh. And what kind of elements come into that kind of planning? What do you recommend? Sure.
Now, I will say this. I know it sounds self-serving, but the best thing that anyone can do is hire an attorney or at least consult with an experienced attorney from the very beginning. You know, the law is really an interesting thing. It varies from state to state, and it can be complex. So what feels right to you as an individual, or sort of from a common sense approach, does not necessarily mean that that's the right thing for you to do in a court of law or in your divorce proceedings. So it's a very difficult process to get through, and the goal is to work with someone that can focus on the law so that you can focus as an individual on your mental and emotional health as well as on your financial health.
Yeah.
So I think that's one step that people underestimate. And I will say, in my experience as a divorce lawyer, I often receive cases that are already in progress. So a client will come to me to sort of fix what they've done previously on their own. And it's a lot easier, and you're in a much stronger position if you eliminate that by getting proper legal counsel from the very beginning. And, you know, the bottom line is that this is your life, right? This is something that you spent probably many years building, your family's assets, and you do not want to have any regrets at the end of the day. You want to identify your rights, know your legal rights, and be proactive about protecting them from the onset. So that's the first thing that I tell people, is you really cannot underestimate the value of a good legal counsel fighting for you and by your side during this whole process. Now,
I was going to say, so, and I would like to just interject that even if you don't know for sure if you're going to get a divorce, if you're even just thinking about it, is it appropriate to contact you or a divorce lawyer just to see what the lay of the land would be if you considered that? Is that something that you would recommend as well?
Absolutely. And again, that's where the divorce strategist comes in. I cannot tell you the number of cases I've had where a client may meet with me 6 months, 9 months, or even a year before actually leaving. And during that period of time, we are able to properly focus on the finances, ensuring that someone is prepared emotionally to go through the process, financially to go through the process. And I will tell you, and perhaps more so in the Black community, but also spiritually, have you done everything you can do? Have you exhausted all of your resources in terms of marital counseling and pastoral counseling, and have you prayed about it? So there's a lot that goes into the process. We do not take divorce lightly.
Good. Very
good.
It's
whenever you're dealing with matters of the heart, the heart is such a complex thing to deal with.
Oh, yeah.
So there's so many things that go into it. And so planning in advance before you just make a rash decision is always the best policy.
Good.
In my experience.
That's good. That's good advice. That's good. I wish more people had it. I wish I've been through a divorce. I wish somebody had told me that. It was the worst experience, I think. Short of death, it is just an awful experience. It really is. Yeah. So
it is for most people, but it doesn't always have to be. And that's, when I look at it, when a client comes to me, it's not just about pushing paper, but it's about how do we help this family resolve this conflict? And how do we help them transition out of a marriage and into a new life with as minimal damage as possible to the parties as well as to the children.
Yeah, children.
Because if there's children, they are the ones that are often suffering the most.
So now tell us, how do you give us some ideas about what do you mean about being proactive? What are the kinds of things that people need to know? Where do you need to focus? What do you need to focus on?
Sure. So the first thing I would tell your audience to focus on is protecting yourself by focusing on your finances.
Okay.
And some things you can do in order to do that from the protection standpoint is, one, change your passwords to accounts.
Okay.
Change your email address password. That's some of the most basic things that can oftentimes lead people down the wrong road. You need to put locks on your cell phones, and because what happens now that we're in this digital technology-driven age, people can make transfers out of a bank account by sending a text message. It's just that easy.
Wow.
Okay? And so now we have to, the practice has to evolve so that you're thinking about things as detailed as that, changing your passwords on your cell phones to your email accounts that your spouse knows about, and to your bank accounts, brokerage accounts, etc.
Oh, and something a lot of people don't know, Michelle, is that if you have somebody's name on your account, if you're husband and wife, either party can take everything out of the account.
Absolutely.
I'm always surprised that people do not realize that.
Yes, and that happens all too frequently.
It does.
And which brings me to the next point, which is consider opening a separate bank account when you're beginning this process and begin depositing your income or savings or whatever you have into a separate account. Specifically to avoid the problem you just discussed, which is coming home one day and finding out that your account has been completely emptied. So that's part of the preparing process. Now, what I will say is, just because you've placed money in a separate account, that does not mean that the money is yours. So I'm not saying or suggesting in any way that your client should have the right to then spend that money any way they want to or use it however they want to. What we're talking about is the wealth preservation.
Hold that thought just there. We have to take a break, and we'll be right back, because that's really important. We'll be right back. Yes, thank you.
1450 WOL, where information is power.
This is Sneaker Release Day, the day I battle through runners, dunkers, stylers, and stunners. Half sizes, wide widths, and my son needs this in a 6. In order to get the latest rookie shoe, I make a veteran move. McCafe Coffee, 2 creams, 2 sugars.
From September 16th to the 29th, get the McCafe coffee you love, absolutely free. Stop by McDonald's during breakfast hours for a small cup of McCafe coffee, made just for you, so your days never miss a stride.
Sweet.
At participating McDonald's.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Radio 1, the urban media specialist, is proud to help your company reach thousands of qualified, diverse job seekers. If your company's recruitment needs include diversity, please join Radio 1 on Tuesday, September 30th for the Radio 1 Diversity Career Fair. To inquire about your company participating, simply email diversitycareerfair@radio-1.com. Position your company in front of several thousand qualified, diverse job seekers at the Radio 1 Diversity Career Fair on September 30th at the DC Armory. For more information, email diversitycareerfair@radio-1.com. Radio 1 is the leader in reaching qualified, diverse candidates. Don't miss out on the opportunity to recruit the best and the brightest minds. Email diversitycareerfair@radio-1.com.
Do you have unfiled tax returns or owe the IRS or state more than $10,000? If you don't take action now, your tax problem is going to get worse, much worse. Seizure of property, bank levies, wage garnishments, and potential criminal prosecution. And if you owe the IRS back payroll taxes, chances are you will be visited at your home or business by an IRS agent. Don't become paralyzed by fear. Take action now. Call the experts at U.S. Tax Shield for help. Our team of experienced tax attorneys can get you protected, stop collections, and negotiate a permanent settlement with the IRS and state, potentially saving you thousands of dollars. At U.S. Tax Shield, our tax advisors will review your case for free, inform you of your rights, and give you a guaranteed quote. No games and no tricky upsells. That's why we have an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau and thousands of satisfied clients. Put an end to your torment. Get protected. Get the Shield. Call U.S. Tax Shield now at 800-656-9393. That's 800-656-9393. 800-656-9393.
HelloBeautiful.com is the website for today's black woman. Whether you follow the power moves of Michelle Obama and Oprah, or just want to keep up with the Braxtons and Basketball Wives. Whether you need some help with your outfit, or if you want to clown on someone else's. Hello Beautiful is helpful hints and guilty pleasures. Hello Beautiful keeps you connected and gives you a break. For every part of you, HelloBeautiful.com.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names. Really? They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now. 800-359-3360. 800-359-3360.
News Talk 1450 WOL-AM, where information is power.
Welcome back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I'm your host, Attorney Ethel Mitchell. We are talking with Attorney Michelle C. Thomas about the do's and don'ts of divorce. So, Michelle, you were talking to us about finance just before the break. Tell us more, please, because that's important.
Yeah, so what's really important is to protect yourself and focus on your finances throughout this process. So what we're talking about is wealth preservation, okay? How do you preserve the wealth and the assets that you have while going through what is typically a financially difficult and challenging time? So one of the things I suggest to people to avoid what we were talking about before, which is coming home and finding out that your bank accounts have been emptied, is considering opening up a separate account in your name only, without your spouse on it, and depositing your income, earnings, savings there during this process. Now, I have to tell you and your listeners that doing that does not make the money yours, and that does not mean that you can simply spend the money any way that you want to, or what we, I guess, refer to in the profession as dissipate assets. What we do want to do is make sure that your money is protected and that you cannot come home and find out that you're suddenly broke. It's a lot easier to protect the money that's there than it is to try to get the money back.
That's for sure.
And that's what I try to focus on. It also enables you to build an emergency fund. If you start this type of process 6 months or a year before you actually file, it gives you the opportunity to build an emergency fund without worrying about the money disappearing.
Right.
And, what we're really talking about is giving you peace of mind, right? I mean, knowing that you're protected in that way should hopefully give you peace of mind throughout the process.
That's very important. Very important.
Yeah.
Now, what else do you recommend to clients to do in terms of preparing for divorce or going through a divorce?
Sure. Well, some of the things that are as basic as we said before about changing your passwords and putting locks on phones also includes privatizing your social network. So while we're in this technology-driven and digital age and era, there's also this social media component that really infiltrates every area and aspect of our lives. And so if you're Facebook friends with your spouse, let's say you have mutual friends, you want to go through your privacy settings on Facebook or various social media platforms and ensure that your information is protected. I've seen way too many times someone gather evidence that is used against them in court in their divorce case from someone's Facebook page, which might include photos of someone with a significant other that's not your spouse. It might include, status updates about you having been out until 2 o'clock in the morning. But
they can use that in court?
Children. You can absolutely use that in court, and quite frankly, when we request information known as discovery from the other side, we regularly and routinely ask for all status postings, updates from all social media platforms, including Facebook. And that's the easiest way for someone to access information to be used against you in court.
Wow, I never thought of that. Okay.
Yeah. And to that end, quite frankly, if you can, simply avoid posting about your personal life or writing about it publicly during this process, because you as an individual, you might think it's harmless, but your lawyer or certainly a court of law may see it differently.
Yeah. That's
so
a general
really
that in general is good advice, I think, for anyone. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So some other things you can do in planning and protecting yourself include contacting the proper professional. So in addition to retaining competent legal counsel, which we discussed at the beginning of the program, you might also consider consulting with a financial advisor / tax planner, because there are tax consequences that affect persons that are married filing separately versus married filing jointly. And most of the times your tax liability increases exponentially if you're married and decide to file as an individual, file separately. And so those are some of the tax planning components that you really need to address to avoid taking a larger hit down the road. And again, focusing on that wealth preservation that we talked about.
Yeah. Another thing I've heard of is when you have been married filing jointly for years, and especially if one spouse has a business and that business has not been paying their taxes, the other spouse may end up getting their money, what do you call it, garnished?
Yes.
Because of the taxes of the other spouse. And is that something that you look at when you're going through a divorce settlement as well? Is that something you want to know about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's the flip side of it in terms of whether you should file married, filing separately or individually. It's really important to consult with your lawyer as well as a tax professional because of that reason. I represent a lot of business owners and professional services business owners. And what I've seen way too often are where one spouse might pay personal expenses out of the business account, which is not proper.
Which is not proper.
And if the other spouse is completely ignorant of that fact, they can certainly be held liable for it down the road if that catches up to them.
Right.
And so if you don't know, if you're not intimately involved in your spouse's business practice, then you really need to be careful and investigate whether everything has been done properly during that process. And if not, you want to speak to your tax professional about filing what's called an injured spouse form.
Oh.
And that's really important to do as early in the process as possible if you're concerned about your spouse's tax liabilities that may eventually attach themselves to you.
What's the name of that form that you say you file? An injured?
It's an injured spouse form, yes.
Okay.
You want to talk to a tax professional about that and inquire and say, am I a good candidate for an injured spouse form? Because I am concerned about these following things that I believe my spouse has done.
Okay.
And it is true that if you're filing jointly, there's a liability. And there's a liability, even if that liability was incurred solely based upon the actions of your spouse. If you're the person working and let's say your spouse is not or there's not sufficient income there, believe me, Uncle Sam will come for whoever,
I know
from whichever
people.
party they can get their money from.
Yeah, I know people who are suffering with that, who went through a divorce and their paycheck was being garnished for a business that they really had no parts of. They knew nothing about. It's really sad.
Right.
Yeah. Well, hold on a moment. We'll be right back. Okay, we're going to take another break. Yes, thank you.
1450 WOL, where information is power.
When I walk into Buffalo Wild Wings, I'm not just a customer.
I'm a fan.
And in this house, fans rule.
This is our stadium,
Our locker room.
Our dugout.
our sports drinks are served on tap, and our pregame meal is
hand-spun wings.
In victory or in defeat, we never leave hungry.
because in this house, we are the MVPs.
Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports. Visit BuffaloWildWings.com to find the location nearest you.
And now, the official fan rules of Buffalo Wild Wings. Rule number 15. When your team's QB tries to quiet the crowd, be quiet. Rule number 20. Popularity isn't a reason to support a team, except maybe with sauces. Rule number 38. Your team is greater than your fantasy team. Root accordingly. Rule number 62. Rival football fans can share a beer after the game, but loser always buys. With over 20 beers on tap, your winning round is waiting at Buffalo Wild Wings. Wings, beer, sports.
Trying to sell your old car? Instead, donate your vehicle to Heritage for the Blind. Pickup is free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-943-1356. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and buses, whether they run or not. Call right now and receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to over 50 locations. Call 1-800-943-1356. Donate your car today. That's 1-800-943-1356.
When I have an asthma attack, I feel scared. It's kind of like an elephant is on my chest. I feel like I'm choking. Sometimes my parents have to take me to the hospital.
You know how to react to their asthma attacks. Here's how to prevent them. Call 1-866-NO-ATTACKS. Visit www.noattacks.org or call your doctor, because even one attack is one too many.
I feel like a fish with no water.
Brought to you by the EPA and the Ad Council.
Owning and caring for a home comes with a lot of to-dos. Fix the AC, build a deck, remodel the kitchen. Whatever your home improvement needs, Home Advisor can help you find a pro you can trust to get the job done right. Go to fixitfast.homeadvisor.com for instant access to top-rated pros in your area. And Home Advisor is absolutely free to use. You can read customer reviews of the pros, even use the cost guide to find out what hundreds of other home projects cost in your area. Go to fixitfast.homeadvisor.com to find the right pro for your project.
Hi, my name is Stanley, and I've been arrested for stealing shoes. I didn't really steal them, but I've been sent to Camp Green Lake anyway. The worst punishment a kid could get. And at Camp Green Lake, we dig holes. Lots of holes. I've only been here a short time, but I think the camp director is up to something. I'm Stanley Yelnats, and I'm covering more than dirt at Camp Green Lake. Explore new worlds. Read my story in the novel Holes by Louis Sacker. For other great book ideas, visit your local library or log on to literacy.gov. Brought to you by the Library of Congress and the Ad Council.
Here's George Foreman with InventHelp.
Hi, I'm George Foreman. Do you have an idea for a new product or invention? People ask me all the time, George, how do I get my idea in front of companies? How do I get a patent? What do I do next? Do you have the same questions? I'll tell you like I'll tell them all. Call my friends at InventHelp.
Call InventHelp today for free information. InventHelp has been helping inventors for more than 30 years and has sales offices nationwide. InventHelp can submit your invention to companies who are interested in receiving new ideas. If you have an idea and want to try to patent it and submit it to companies, you should call InventHelp today for free information.
Listen, I can't guarantee a company will be interested in your idea, but I believe every inventor deserves the opportunity to step into the ring and take their best shot. Put InventHelp in your corner.
For free inventors information, call 1-800-497-9975. 1-800-497-9975. That's 1-800-497-9975.
News Talk 1450 WOL AM, where information is power.
Welcome back. You're listening to Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell. I am your host, Attorney Ethel Mitchell. We are talking with Attorney Michelle C. Thomas about the do's and don'ts of divorce. You can find her online at www.thomaslawdc.com. Attorney Thomas has offices in Silver Spring, on Colesville Road, on Connecticut Avenue in Washington, D.C., and in McLean, Virginia. You can call her at 202-536-4841. That's 202-536-4841. And follow her on Twitter at Michelle C. Thomas. And she spells it with two L's, C. Thomas. Attorney Thomas, welcome back. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
So tell us more about assets and finances of divorce. You say at one point not to dissipate assets. What about hiding assets? Is that something that you run across? I mean, do people try and do that? And what are the consequences of that?
Unfortunately, it's something that I run across almost every day.
Okay.
Most people have the belief, and there's a conceptual issue here in terms of when people divorce. A lot of people go into or exit a marriage thinking, what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. I'm the one who got up and worked every day. You may have stayed home and taken care of the children, but because I earn the money is therefore mine. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the grossest misconceptions there is, I think, about finances during the divorce process. Once you marry, most of your earnings or income that you've received thereafter become marital property. So even if your spouse didn't lift a finger in terms of bringing in any income into the household, all of that money is still considered both of yours in that joint marital pot. And so what happens is the person who got up and went to work every day says, well, they're not entitled to this, so then they begin moving money around. Mm-hmm. I've seen transfers to the tune of, $100,000 here, $200,000 there being wired out of accounts just prior to someone filing for divorce. Mm-hmm. Now, here's the problem with that. Money leaves a paper trail.
Yes.
And so because of the court's abilities and lawyer attorneys' abilities to issue subpoenas and even hire asset investigators, as I've had to do in cases, we can find out where the money went. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we can get that money back.
Okay.
And even if you cannot, let's say the money is not only have they tried to hide it, but they've also spent it or dissipated it. Well, we can determine how much money you removed and say if you took out $100,000 from this account, regardless of whether you spent it or not, you owe your spouse $50,000 of it back, and you're obligated to pay that money back.
Oh, wow.
And I've gotten and seen those types of rulings in my cases all too often. So the whole concept of shuffling money and wiring money, even if you're wiring it out of the country, money always leaves a paper trail. I can't enforce that or emphasize that enough to your listeners.
Okay.
But people learn the hard way. Everyone thinks that they are the ones that can sort of get away with it. And there are, in the same way that we might hire a private investigator to follow someone in the case of adultery or something like that, there are asset investigators that specifically are trained to find the money.
Wow.
And people don't really know that, I don't think, enough. And I would just say generally, nothing is really private. So every phone call that you make, every text message you send, all of that can possibly resurface during the process of your divorce. So I always say it's much better to be forthcoming, sort of put your cards on the table. If the other side asks the right questions, then you should answer them in a forthcoming manner. And then really you work together to effectively help, resolve the conflict. But hiding money, that just prolongs the process and makes it even more painful than what it has to be.
I bet. My goodness. Well, that leads us to another question, which I think you answered already, but certainly, why hire a lawyer? Because clearly, lay people don't know how to do that kind of thing at all. But a lot of people think they can just do it themselves. We'll come to an agreement, and we'll write up something and go to the judge. And talk to us about that. Talk to us about that.
Oh, my goodness. It's people, you have enough on your plate, right, with the emotional and financial aspects. You really don't want to have to deal with the legal issues, too. It gets very complex. There's a lot of concepts that people are not aware of that if you're working with an experienced divorce lawyer, they are aware of. And I will say this, even in choosing a lawyer, you really want someone who specializes in that particular practice area. So you don't want a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? So there are a lot of practitioners who may do a host of things, and family law may be one of those. But you really want to hone in on someone who focuses their practice 100% of the time on these very important divorce and family law matters, because there are so many nuances in the law that if you don't do it every day, you might miss something. And that's for a lawyer. So a layperson without the legal background and expertise is usually outnumbered or outsmarted, particularly if the other side has a lawyer.
Always,
If your spouse has a lawyer, you must. It's highly advisable that you retain competent legal counsel as soon as possible. You want someone that you feel comfortable with, that certainly you're comfortable asking a lot of questions. You should ask questions, keeping in mind, of course, that you'll probably be charged for the time that you spend asking questions. But
it's worth
you want to make sure you're clear. And you want to have a relationship where you can tell your lawyer everything. That's another problem that emerges in these attorney-client relationships. Your lawyer does not want to find out the day before trial that you really were involved with some other person, and you really did go on vacation and spend marital money on a trip with a paramour. Don't do that. You really want to be very forthcoming with your attorney. Forget about the embarrassment of it. You want to make sure you have open lines of communication. If you're embarrassed talking to your lawyer about it, just think about how much worse it will be if you have to go to court and tell it to a judge.
Or have it thrown in your face when you're there and the lawyer doesn't even know about it.
Exactly. And I go back to the fact that you really do not want to have any regret. This is your life.
It really is.
It really is. So it's really important to work with counsel. Now, you mentioned it briefly, these parties who think that they can just prepare an agreement and do it on their own. That's also one of the largest hurdles that I encounter when clients come in to meet with me is where a client may have signed something, a written document that he or she and their spouse have prepared on their own, and then come in and ask me to enforce it or fix it.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much what we call legalese or legal jargon that needs to be included in any type of settlement agreement. You know, even if you reach an agreement with your spouse on the core terms of how you'll resolve the finances of your marriage, you then want to contact a lawyer to draft the agreement. Don't do that yourself.
Please, yes. Because the enforcement piece is often where things break down at. You know, a lot of people think they're getting along. He says he's going to do this, or she says she's going to do this, and then they don't do it, and then you've got to make them do it, and that's where it falls apart at quite often.
Right.
Yeah. Is there any other advice that you'd like to share? Tell us a little bit, if we have time, about custody. Do you handle custody of children? Is that part of your practice as well?
Absolutely. If a family divorcing couple has children, then the custody component is definitely part of that. And there's a whole lot that parties can do to protect themselves and their children as well through proper planning. One of the first things I might suggest or discuss with persons is making sure that they've consulted proper professionals, which might include parenting coordinators, to help facilitate communication between the parties, because obviously it's a tense situation. Going through a divorce is not easy.
No, it's not.
So you might consider consulting with a parenting coordinator or family therapist to address the needs of the children. Children internalize almost everything.
Yeah.
And children believe that whatever's happening between the spouses or the parties is their fault. And so you want to make sure that
That's right.
You're protecting the children's emotional well-being by getting them the proper support and help that they need very early in the process.
That's important. That really is important. Yes. Hold on just a moment. Just a minute. We have to take a break, and we'll be right back, okay?
Sure.
Be right back. Thank you.
1450 WOL, where information is power.
Radio 1, the urban media specialist, is proud to help your company reach thousands of qualified diverse job seekers. If your company's recruitment needs include diversity, please join Radio 1 on Tuesday, September 30th for the Radio 1 Diversity Career Fair. To inquire about your company participating, simply email diversitycareerfair@radio-1.com. Position your company in front of several thousand qualified diverse job seekers at the Radio 1 Diversity Career Fair on September 30th at the DC Armory. For more information, email diversitycareerfair@radio-1.com. Radio 1 is the leader in reaching qualified diverse candidates. Don't miss out on the opportunity to recruit the best and the brightest minds. Email diversitycareerfair@radio-1.com.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
HelloBeautiful.com is the website for today's black woman. Whether you follow the power moves of Michelle Obama and Oprah, or just want to keep up with the Braxtons and basketball wives. Whether you need some help with your outfit, or if you want to clown on someone else's. Hello Beautiful is helpful hints and guilty pleasures. Hello Beautiful keeps you connected and gives you a break. For every part of you, HelloBeautiful.com.
Life insurance companies are praying you don't learn about the little-known but painfully obvious secret of how to win the game of life insurance so that you win and the insurance companies lose money on your policy. I'll share the secret with you even if you don't buy your policy from me. I'm Byron Udell of AccuQuote, and since 1986, we've helped millions of people save a fortune on their life insurance. Call AccuQuote today at 800-500-3353 and ask about The Secret. That's 800-500-3353.
If your child is choking, stand behind them and wrap your arms around their waist. Place the thumb side of your fist against their upper abdomen. Put your other hand over the fist. Now press the fist into your child's abdomen with a quick inward and upward thrust. Repeat quick thrusts until object and airway.
You know how to help your child if they're choking, but do you know how to help them if they have a drug problem? Visit drugfree.org for information, help, and advice.
A message from the partnership at drugfree.org and Prevention First.
Owning and caring for a home comes with a lot of to-dos. Fix the AC, build a deck, remodel the kitchen. Whatever your home improvement need, Home Advisor can help you find a pro you can trust to get the job done right. Go to fixitfast.homeadvisor.com for instant access to top-rated pros in your area, including electricians, handymen, remodelers, whatever type of home pro you need. Home Advisor is absolutely free to use. At Home Advisor, you don't have to search through a long list of pros. With just a few clicks, Home Advisor matches you with pros who provide the exact services you need. You can read customer reviews of the pros, even use the cost guide to find out what hundreds of other home projects cost in your area. And because Home Advisor knows it's important to find a pro you can trust in your home, they conduct background checks on their service professionals. It's just one of the reasons more than 25 million homeowners have used Home Advisor. Go to fixitfast.homeadvisor.com to find the right pro for your project. That's fixitfast.homeadvisor.com.
And the Ad Council.
News Talk 1450 WOLAM, where information is power.
Welcome back. This is Attorney Ethel Mitchell, and we're talking with Attorney Michelle Thomas about divorce. Michelle, you were telling us about custody matters and the kinds of things you need to be careful of when it comes to children.
Yeah.
Tell us a little more, please.
Sure. So one of the largest, I think, challenges that I've seen in my practice in dealing with divorce that includes custody cases is parents that fight in front of the children. Mm-hmm. So one of the number one don'ts of going through a divorce is do not fight in front of the children. It has devastating long-term effects on them that may or may not be able to be reversed. Mm-hmm. And, you have to think about the fact that your relationship is the first relationship that your children see of how adults are supposed to interact. Mm-hmm. So what type of role modeling are you setting for your children about how to have adult romantic relationships and how to resolve conflict? Mm-hmm. And so I encourage clients and everyone to take a step back and look at the bigger picture and ask yourself, was it really worth it to have the last word if it means affecting my child in this manner? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Kids don't have any other way to evaluate relationships other than what they see you two doing. So if mommy's screaming at daddy or daddy's screaming at mommy, that's what's breeding this next generation of dysfunctional relationships. Right. And, I know that the show that was on before yours was dealing with the topic of love. Mm-hmm. So we really have to think about, the institution of marriage and then this process of divorce in a much broader context, and think about how we are affecting society and this next generation that's coming up.
Right.
Will your children be able to trust their partner based upon what they've seen or how they've seen their parents act?
Yeah. I remember one thing I heard once also that was very profound. Children realize that you once loved your spouse as well, and you're divorcing them. Will you divorce me? Meaning the child. And I remember someone saying, you should always tell your children, I will never divorce you. In other words, regardless of what happens between me and your parent, your spouse, or your whether it's father or mother, you will always be my child. And that is important to tell a child, because a child needs to hear that from you. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I encourage parties and parents to remain involved in the child's life, even if it's a very contentious situation, between the adults. Mm-hmm. Children need both parents, mothers and fathers, equally. in their lives. And I also see that all too often, which is one parent ostracizing or alienating the other parent. And in fact, there's even a legal term for it, alienation of parental rights. And courts are increasingly taking that seriously. I cannot tell you, and I'm ashamed to say almost, that I've had multiple clients come to me in a scenario where they've come home from work and the children are gone. The house is empty and the children are gone.
The children are gone?
Yeah.
Oh, my
God.
God.
There's a note. What you would see on TV, I mean, people
really
like
do that.
Oh, that's people
awful.
Really do that. And so we then have to spend, it takes a lot of time and money to get the kids back, which we've been able to do successfully, but it really, the impact
That's
of
awful.
That,
yeah.
It's absolutely awful. So the courts are really taking a much more aggressive role against that type of parental alienation, and in some jurisdictions like D.C., there is a presumption of joint custody for both parents. And I think society as a whole is moving toward that point and should move toward that point because, children need both of their parents
they do.
in their lives.
They do.
Well,
you have given us great advice. Are there any other final points that you want to share with us?
Yeah.
Yes.
There's no benefit to going it alone. And not having a strong legal team, a strong emotional team, and a strong financial team to fight for you.
Yeah.
The law and the legal aspects of divorce can get very complicated. And so, I cannot emphasize enough the importance of planning and being proactive about protecting your future. Whether that's the finances or your children or, your hard-earned business that you've built over the years. Seeking the correct professional help from the very beginning will help alleviate a lot of heartache down the road and try to ease the process as much as possible. Divorce is very difficult. It can be very devastating, but it doesn't have to be with the right people on your side.
Very good. Very good. Thank you so much. That was Attorney Michelle Thomas. You can contact her by calling 202-536-4841. That's 202-536-4841. You can look her up online at www.thomaslawdc.com. Thank you very much, Attorney Thomas. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, my pleasure, really. And I hope that my audience learns a lot and takes advantage of it. And do understand that even if you're just thinking about it, you don't have to go through a divorce. You can maybe have a consultation if you're having difficulties just to find out what your legal rights are. As I always say on this program, what you don't know can really hurt you. What you do know can empower you. So I urge everyone who's listening to the show today to move forward with that and to contact Attorney Thomas. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to go to the last section of the program, what I call the good news section, and we have a lot of good news this week. The Church Compliance Conference presented by the Law Office of Attorney Erika Cole, the church attorney, took place this Thursday, and I understand it was outstanding. If you are in the ministry or in the leadership of your church and you missed the conference, you can contact Attorney Cole at www.churchattorney.com. You can call her at 410-654-4300. I want our churches to be in compliance with the law and financially strong. And she offers that service. I understand that there were sessions on accounting, proper accounting, as well as on all the various or many of the various challenges that are faced by churches today. So that is, I'm just so proud and supportive of the work that she's doing in trying to empower our institutions. This week also, the Congressional Black Caucus presented its annual legislative conference. It is the 44th such conference at the Washington Convention Center. It is still going on. Right now, the prayer breakfast is going on Pastor Calvin Butts of Abyssinian Baptist Church of New York is presiding over the prayer breakfast this morning. There are meetings going on today. The National Black Law Students Association is meeting today. Tonight, President Barack Obama will speak at the Phoenix Awards dinner, where Miss Kathy Hughes, owner of this radio station, will be honored. She will be the recipient of one of the major awards there. Wade Henderson, a former guest on Law Talk with Ethel Mitchell, will also be receiving an award there. The sessions of the conference were outstanding, and if you didn't go, you really missed something. The National Town Hall meeting on Thursday focused on voting rights, and Representative Marcia Fudge, chair of the CBC, along with Barbara Arwine, Elaine Jones, Wade Henderson, and many others spoke. Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi was present. One of the things I noticed this year was that there's a real effort being made to reach out to young people. So, for example, at the town hall meeting, Jeff Johnson, who was the moderator, had everyone 30 years and younger to stand up and be applauded and announce that these are our young leaders. We need to support them. We need to be behind them. We need to educate them. And I thought that was great. Additionally, I went by the Science and Technology Brain Trust, where Representative Eddie Bernice Johnson had over 400 students at her Science and Technology Brain Trust session, where they were awed by scientists who looked like them and were encouraged to pursue studies in science, math, engineering, and technology. The conference includes many members of Congress. As if you've been listening to this program, about 3 weeks ago, I named all 43 members of the Congressional Black Caucus, and they're the ones that put on this conference. But through the foundation, their foundation puts on the conference, they bring in experts from all over the world. And one of the things that I know just from having been involved in it is that there is no conference like this anywhere in the United States ever. This is the only one like it. There is what's called the Tri-Caucus, where they have Latino and Asian congressmen also there. So next year, if you missed it, make sure that you go, okay? We're going to be bringing you lots of good news in the future and more great programs. This is Attorney Ethel Mitchell. Give me a call at 202-772-1988, and I can certainly help you with your wills, your trust, and your estate planning. I hope you enjoyed the program, and tune in next week for another great program. Have a good day and a good week.